Well, good morning, church. Good morning. Man, it is good to see you. It is good to see you. You know I love you, don't you? Yes. I love you. I love you, church. I love you, boss. I want to give God praise real quick. We were worried about you. And Ernie is back with us today. If God's good, yep. I just couldn't get started as normal without just saying it's good, man.
It's good to be saved.
Yep. Yep.
Thank everyone for the prayers.
Yep. We a family, aren't we?
Yes.
Good. I'm excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today. Excited to share a lot of what's going on. And I know this. I know that a lot of you are here and you're going, all right, Tim, let's just get to it. What's the big news, right? Why do we have to shift our schedules to make sure we were here on this Sunday, get all dressed up, coffeeed up, we're in the seats? What's the big news? Well, in order to tell you the big news, you ain't going to believe what I got to do. I got to tell you a story. Actually going to be beginning a new series today entitled Make a Way. You can see it. And we're going to be in a book of the Bible that, crazy enough, is the first book of the Bible that I ever studied in an official Bible study. Back in about 2005, Pastor Ronnie was leading a class, and my beautiful wife drugged me there. And we were supposed to read, we kind of got the idea of how the class was working. After that first class, we're supposed to read ahead. And I'll never forget sitting down with the book of Nehemiah and frantically making notes as I felt for the first time that God was sharing things with me. God was speaking to me through His Word. It lit a fire in me that day that even to this day is still not been quenched. I love getting in the Bible and just learning from Him and just hearing from God. And so it seems so fitting that God would lead us to that book or lead me to that book for such a time as this at Golden Corner Church. I'm going to get going. Y'all ready? Yes. The book of Nehemiah follows the life and the leadership of a Jewish man named, y'all say it? Nehemiah. Good. Y'all got that figured out already. His story occurs right around 446 BC, and when we're introduced to Nehemiah, he is living in exile from his home and his people. As a matter of fact, research tells us that even though Nehemiah was a Jew, he was an Israelite, that he was actually born into exile in Babylon. Meaning he most likely never knew anything more other than being in service to Babylonians and Persians. That's what he knew. Okay, he most likely had never seen his home country or the city or many of his people and his family because of what had happened to the Israelites at this time. For historical context, let me tell you this: the previous 350 years of Israelite history, they had been ruled, they had been exiled, enslaved, and tyrannized by different people groups. Okay, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, all of these. God's people had just been ruled by other people and had been removed from their own country. We understand by reading the Bible, it explains to us that God's people had turned from Him at some point. They had been disobedient. They had sinned against God. And because of that, God yielded His protection of His people, and He actually allowed them to be scattered throughout the world. That's where you find the books of Daniel in the Bible, Ezra, Esther, and Nehemiah. All these books in the Old Testament tell the stories of the people of Israel during their time of exile. By the time we get to Nehemiah chapter 1, this is what we know has happened. Some Jews have returned to Jerusalem. They've made a return. But the city is far from restored, and Nehemiah himself is still living in Babylon, and he is an important servant to the king. Everybody with me? At the beginning of chapter 1, we're told, around the month of November, Nehemiah's brother, Hananiah, has just returned from a trip to Jerusalem, and Nehemiah inquires about the conditions there. How's it look? How are the people? How some of our family? What's going on? It's a how's your mom and them situation. Y'all ever do that? You see somebody and they've got the inside track, and you're like, hey, how's your mom and them? How's everybody doing? What's the city like? Do you know what I think we can discern from this inquisition from Nehemiah's question? He cares. You with me? He's interested. How are his people? What's his home city like? What's Jerusalem like? The promised land. How's it going over there? He cares. He is at least interested. You with me? Read the report with me. And this is Nehemiah talking. He said, "They said to me, 'Things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in,'" look at this, "'great trouble and disgrace.'" Read those words. Y'all say them with me. "They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." The report from Hananiah was this: it's not good. It ain't good. You with me, Scott? It's not good. Some Jews had returned to Jerusalem, but their situation was awful. They were living in squalor. Actually, the Hebrew word for disgrace, when you go and you look up the word, it actually means it's humiliating the way people are living. That's what it means. It said, it's humiliating the way people are living there. The condition of the city is humiliating. It's a disgrace. The conditions were shameful. Let me make sure you understand, because Hananiah just we get this little brief overview of what Hananiah said, but we actually have a lot of insight into the condition of Jerusalem and its people just through historical records. The temple had been mostly rebuilt, but hadn't returned to the place of worship that it was before, because the people of Jerusalem were hopeless. They were living in hopelessness. It was poverty. There were very few conveniences. There was no infrastructure. This place was a disaster zone. When you imagine Jerusalem at this point, you have to imagine something more representative of like a refugee camp. That's what it looked like. The walls were rubble. The gates were burned down. Even many of the homes were burned down. Parts of Jerusalem would have looked more like a tent city than some big bustling city. Are you with me? Jerusalem, the Israelite promised land, was now a hopeless feeling place. And the Jews, some of the Jews, although home, were desperately lost with no sign of improvement, no way of seeing how things could ever get better for them. You understand? And they were still being ruled by Babylonians and Persians, no matter what. You understand? Verse 4, look at this. It says, "When I heard this, I sat down and wept." What did he do? In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. Are you with me? This tells us something very important about Nehemiah. Nehemiah's question wasn't just because he cared. It was much more than care. This meant something to him. Are you with me? His people and his country, it meant something to him. He cared a lot. How many times in your life, just think about this real quick, to put it in perspective, how many times in your life have you received news that caused you to sit down and weep, to mourn, to fast, and pray for days? How many times has that happened in your life? A couple? A few? That's happened in your life? That you've responded to something in that way? This is a huge deal, a huge moment in Nehemiah's life. Everybody with me? It says he prays for days, and then luckily, thankfully, God gives us insight right here. We actually get to read a prayer that Nehemiah prays after he has prayed and fasted for days. Read it with me, verse 5. I'm going to read the whole thing, okay? I'm going to go through it fast, but we're going to read the whole thing. You with me? Church, you with me? Yes. Then I said, "O Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of unfailing love with those who love him and obeys his commands." This prayer gets me, man. Listen to my prayer. Look down and see me praying night and day for your people, Israel. I confess that we have sinned against you. Yes, even my own family and I have sinned. We've sinned terribly by not obeying the commands, the decrees, and the regulations that you gave us through your servant Moses. And then he does something kind of strange. Nehemiah reminds God of something. "Please remember what you told your servant Moses. If you're unfaithful to me, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me," you see what he's saying? "But if you return to me and you obey my commands and live by them, then even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I've chosen for my name to be honored. Jerusalem. The people you rescued by your great power and your strong hands are your servants. O Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Now, that's not the end of the prayer, but that's where we're going to stop for a second. Hear the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. You know what he's saying? I love you, God. Hear me. Nehemiah's heart is revealed in this prayer. You see that? His heart, what he wants, is revealed in this prayer. Can I tell you a few things that you've got to see? You with me? Yes. His people mattered to him. You see that? Nehemiah's people mattered to him, even though many of whom he'd never seen, he'd never met, maybe would never meet, they mattered to him. His God mattered to him. You with me? Leslie, you with me? His God mattered to him. Not just that, but the relationship of his people and his God mattered to him. Do you see that? Think about this with me, please. After hundreds of years of exile, all they'd known for generations at this point was exile. After hundreds of years of exile, Nehemiah himself being born into exile, there still existed a heart in him that cared about his people and cared about his God. He wants to see his people living in harmony with God, living within the promise that God had made them. Nehemiah wants to see all of his people restored to God. You see that, Tara? He wants to see all of his people reconciled with God. That's what he wants to see. He wants to see the conditions of their lives radically changed and improved. He wants to see Jerusalem thriving again and the people in it thriving again. In that, he reminds God of a promise that God had made to them. He says, if you will obey me, if you'll return to me, even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back. I will bring you back to Jerusalem. Do you think he's reminding God because he thinks God's forgotten? Brittany, you think that? You think he's like, in case you forgot, God, you think that's what he's doing? No. He's reminding God because he's saying, I want that. And God, I believe with all of my heart, that is what you want. Let's do that. You see what? And the best part is this is not just something that Nehemiah is thinking or something that Nehemiah is praying, Ray. It's not just happy thoughts Nehemiah is sending. Actually, if you look at the very end of the prayer, the last thing Nehemiah does is he makes a request of God. Read those verses with me. This is the end of that prayer. He says, please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Remember, he's an important servant to the king. He says, I'm going to need the king's favor. Put it in his heart to be kind to me. What do you think this request tells us? This is the end of chapter 1. What do you think it tells us? Nehemiah's about to do something. Don't it, Ann? His prayers and his weeping and his mourning and his fasting, it didn't lead Nehemiah to just be like, I guess I'll just sit here. I guess I'll go back to work. He said, no, I got to do something. Do you see that? He's about to do something big. What Nehemiah has heard about his people, his God, and his city has so moved him that he can no longer sit idly by and just serve the king. He must act. The thoughts of his people suffering won't allow him to continue on with life as normal. It won't do it. The thought of his God being disgraced and forgotten by his own people, the people that he saved, the people he rescued, and he said, you will be my people. He just can't sit by and ignore it. It doesn't sit right with him. The realization that his people, generations at this point, have missed out on the promise of God and what God really intended for them cannot be ignored. Are you with me, church? Nehemiah must go, and he must see if there is anything he can do to change it. Nehemiah chapter 1 leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger, don't it, Chris? A bit of a cliffhanger. But in my opinion, it maybe leaves us with one of the most intimidating lessons one can learn from Scripture. Can I share it with you, church? God calls us to big things. God calls us to big things. If you look at this story, you can see that once confronted with this information about his people and his God and his city, Nehemiah knew, I have to do something. Nehemiah was called, right? Nehemiah knew right there in that moment that he didn't just receive this information to take it in. He knew that he had been called to do something. And man, you see that over and over and over again. In your walk with God, are you listening to me? In your walk with God, don't be surprised if one day, without warning, God puts something in front of you that is going to require you to respond in a big way. It's going to require you to do something big. Don't be surprised if something or someone so affects your heart that you can't continue on with life like normal. Are you hearing me? Don't be surprised if God calls you to something bigger with your life than you ever thought possible for little old you. Don't be surprised if it changes your intended trajectory, your comfort level, your plans, your accounts, your schedule, and your life. God calls people to big things. Those that follow Him, He calls to big things. Don't be surprised if it's an undertaking that doesn't make any sense for you. Don't be surprised if it's big and it's intimidating and it's even a little bit crazy. Are you with me, church? Something you can't miss over and over in the Bible is when people were truly committed to God, they were consistently called to do great, big, huge things. They were called to do big things beyond their wildest dreams. You know what those big things mean, don't you? You know what they mean? It means changes. It means discomfort. It means sacrifices. It means enemies. It means stretching. Don't it, Carter? It means stretching. It means challenges. It's just part of following God. Over the next 3 weeks, I plan to teach through Nehemiah in order to talk to you about how God may be calling you to some big things in your life. Okay? Over the next 3 weeks, that's what I want to talk about. But even more specifically, I want to talk to you about how God is calling Golden Corner Church to some big things. Are you with me? Yes. You see, that's exactly where we are right now. You understand that, right? Golden Corner Church. God has called GCC to big things. Are you with me? Let me do this, because this can't just be Tim, okay? This can't just be Tim. This can't just be the staff. That can't be your leadership. It can't just be the trustees. It can't just be us. Can I affirm this with you? Can we just see if we all agree to this? You with me? All right. Donnie, say I come to you and I say, hey, Donnie, I want you to go for a ride around Oconee County. Just go for a little ride and just come back. Donnie gets in the truck. I wouldn't get in the red truck. Could he get in the red truck? Will it run? Oh, it's running. Okay, good. All right, Donnie gets in the truck and he goes for a ride. Highway 11, 183, Highway 130, 24, all the highways. You know, the main highways, just hits the road running, just looking left and right, just taking it in, comes back. He comes back and I say, hey, Donnie, what's the condition of our county right now? You know, how's it looking? How are our neighbors? You know what I think we'd say if we hit those highways? You know what I think we'd say? We're doing all right. Right, Matt? We're doing all right. The county looks okay. You know, I think most people doing okay. Everything's fine. I wondered this recently, though. What if God chose the roads we drove down? What if God picked the streets? And it wasn't the streets that you always drive down. But it was the roads you only go down if you absolutely have to. You know what I'm talking about? The one Siri sends you down when you choose the shortest route. And you end up in the bad part of town. That's the thing about Siri, buddy. She don't see poverty. She don't see it. What if God chose the streets we rode down? What if, worse than that, what if you didn't just drive down the streets? What if you could go in any house? What if you went in all kinds of houses? Nice houses, not nice houses. What if you could just be inside for just a minute and see how people were living? What if you could hear every conversation? What if you could see every struggle? What if you could actually look at the condition of people's marriages? What if you could see every addiction being fed? What if you could see every child being mistreated? What if you could see it? What if you could hear every ugly thing being said or done? What if you could feel every hurt that's being shelled out every day right here in Oconee County? What if He could just make the hopelessness of our county, everyone who's hopeless, He could just take all that. What if He could make it visible like a fog? What would you say then? What if every lost and desperate person in our county could just be lined up down Main Street, Walhalla? How long do you think that line would be? And how would your answer change then if I said, hey, how's our county doing? How are our people? How are my people? What are our neighbors like? What would you say then? Can I tell you what I guess you would say? I think you would say it's a disgrace. That's what I think. I think you would say it's humiliating that people are living this way. I think that's what you would say. I think you would say it is heartbreaking. I'm going to talk about you, church, real quick. I think I know what would happen if you could actually see it all. I think you would weep. I think you would mourn for days. I think you would say it's heartbreaking that so many people are missing out on the life God has for them. That's what I think you would say. I think you would say, we got to help them, right? I think you would say that we got to do something. We can't just sit idly by and pretend like these people don't exist. Like this is not happening right here in our county, that these people aren't hurting. I think you would say, as the church, we have to do something. That's what I think you would say. I think you would say we want to see people reconciled to God. We want to see people restored back to their relationships with God. I think you would say, I want to see lives changed. Isn't that what you'd say? Am I right, church? Yes. Golden Corner Church has been called to big things. You know what Golden Corner Church is all about? Do you know what our vision is? Do you know what we do, what our mission is? We help people find what they're looking for. We help people find what they're looking for. You know what all that hurt and all that stuff is? It's people looking for something. And we believe with all of our hearts they're looking for Jesus. Are you with me, church? They're looking for Jesus. They've been exiled to the ends of the earth. But God promised them something. If you would come back, I'll bring you back. If you would turn back to me, I'll bring you back. We believe people are looking for Jesus. We believe He alone can save you. We believe He alone can change you. Right, church? We believe a growing relationship with Him helps failing marriages, right? Fixes broken relationships. We believe it helps people heal from wounds. overcome addictions. It leads to forgiveness. It creates overwhelming joy, and it leads people to the full life which God actually intends for them. That's what we believe. And we've been called to help this community and beyond find Jesus. Right? That's a big thing. That's a big thing. And it's what Golden Corner Church has been doing for a very long time. But it seems to me that maybe God has called us to even bigger things, maybe than we ever thought was possible. And I believe God has been providing the evidence for that for quite some time. Can I share some stats with you real quick? Sorry, stats. You okay with that? Let me show you this graph. In 2021, Golden Corner Church was averaging right around 200 adults on Sunday mornings. Now, this is just adults in the auditorium on Sunday morning. We call that year the trickle-back year because everybody was just coming back from COVID slowly. So average 200 adults on Sunday morning. Actually, just before that, pre-COVID, that's what we'll say, pre and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, Golden Corner Church had ran about 300 adults, a little below 300 or just right above 300 for the last several years. Okay, so just kind of give you a frame of reference. In 2022, Golden Corner Church was averaging 283 adults on Sunday morning. That was our average, 283 adults. So right back to about normal attendance or what we had experienced before. Last year, Golden Corner Church averaged 413 adults on Sunday morning. 413. That's a lot of growth in a year. This year, we're averaging 490 adults on Sunday morning. Okay? Let me show you the kids' numbers for the same years. In 2022, we were averaging 76 kids on Sunday morning. In 2023, we were averaging 92 kids on Sunday morning. And this year, we're averaging 107 kids on Sunday morning. 107. That's awesome. Yeah. We have some other stats. These are kind of stats at a glance. This is from since 2022. Okay, I want to show you this. Since 2022, our adult attendance is up 75%. Just to give you an idea what that growth is, 75% in adults. That's crazy. Since 2022, our kids ministry is up 30%. Our general fund giving is up 30%. As a matter of fact, last year is the first year Golden Corner Church ever took in over $1 million. We took in $1,013,000 last year. Yep. That's a huge deal. But a wise man once told me, church, it's not as important how many as it is what kind. How many people is good? I love numbers. I'm a numbers guy. But it's not nearly as important as what kind. Since 2022, we have baptized 84 people. You with me? Let me make sure you understand what that means and why that number matters more to us than anything. That means that you are bringing people here that are either encountering Jesus for the first time or they are renewing their relationship with Him right here. That means they're making a commitment to do that. That means that you understand that, right? We don't do other things to get people to church. Do y'all understand that? We go out in the community, we live our lives, right? We share our stories, and we invite people to church. That's what we do. We talk about Jesus, what He's done for us, and we invite people to church. You've done that. You have brought those people here. They have encountered Jesus, and they have made a commitment to follow Him. If they're making that step of baptism, this is what it tells us. It tells us that their lives are going to begin to change. If they're taking that step, they're probably taking other steps. And we see that in all areas of the church. And we see that in service. We see that in missions. We're taking, I think, over 70 people on missions this year. We took 30 last year. We have a recovery program that is starting here at the church. Our preschool is growing. We see it in every aspect of church. Everything is growing. People are taking steps. Our groups ministries are growing. The classes, we had midweek classes where we had over 100 and something people here learning how to share their story. Come on. People showing up for a class midweek to learn how to share their story. I wish I had time to talk about all the areas of the church where we actually see this. I had a guy, but I think if I could sum it up, is this. I had a guy tell me recently, he said, what's happening at the church right now, it's like there's so much good happening, I don't know where to look, and I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. That's exactly how I feel every single day here. I'm scared I'm going to miss it, what God's doing here. When God calls us to big things, there's another truth. When God calls us to big things, you can for sure expect challenges. You hear me, church? And we have one challenge. You know what it is? We need more room in our building. Do y'all agree with that? Yes. Okay, good. Yes, we do. Seen somebody hot dogging over there. Yeah. I'm glad. It's a little tight in here. What about at Easter? I'm going to give you my personal opinion, as if God needed to put an exclamation point on what we've been feeling and what we have been talking about for the last couple of years, as if he needed to do that, was Easter. A couple of years ago, I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I'm going to share it. A couple of years ago, we started a meeting that we have here on Thursday mornings with the staff and even other leadership people. We invite them in to be a part of it. And it's all about development. It's about developing as leaders, as ministers. And we watch podcasts and we talk about our ministries. We talk about what we want to see God do. And then a lot of times we'll pray together, but then sometimes we spread out in the auditorium and we pray. We'll have worship music playing and we just take some time and just pray. And the focus of all those prayers was, God, we want to see life change. That's what it was. We want to be used by you as a church to facilitate people finding you. And we want you to change their lives. We want to see it. We really want to see it and experience that as a church. And so we started doing that. And then all this started happening. When I was driving home from Easter, and I was going, 1,200 people, what are you talking about? I felt God poke me and say, you have no idea what I'll do. You'll have no idea what I'll do. I was just showing you what all we can do. So, what do we do? How do we grow? What does that look like to grow our building? In early 2022, very beginning of 2022, around actually March, we began to prepare for growth from a building and infrastructural perspective. We entered into what is called a master planning process with a company called LMG Architects out of Greenville. The idea was this: while we were praying in here, we knew we needed to do whatever work needed to happen in order to be prepared for growth. God, if you send them, we will make sure that we're ready for them. During that same time as we began to meet with them, we interviewed builders and we even selected a stewardship partner. We interviewed builders and selected Clayton Construction because we wanted to build a relationship with our builder, and we had a lot of preliminary work we wanted to make sure we could do. And we also interviewed stewardship partners and went with a company called Enjoy Stewardship. And basically what that is that they are coaches that come in and advise you on how to make a lot of these financial decisions and what that looks like for churches. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to make the wisest decisions possible, and we wanted people that have done it and do it to help us through that process. So that were the three relationships that we began. During that process, the staff met, the trustees were a part of it. We also brought in a lot of our leaders, our server leaders, into that process. We involved all sorts of people. We involved other churches and their leaders and their staffs. Basically, this is what it looked like. For 2 years, we asked a lot of questions. I mean, we asked so many questions, it's dumb, because we wanted to know everything that we wanted to head off anything we could. We toured churches, we met with other church staffs and talked about their growth and how they had grown. We drew drawings, we looked at our property, we trashed drawings, we drew other drawings, we sent emails, we did all the things, okay? More emails than I ever care to be a part of, ever. The goal was to plan the future phases of our church, so as God moved, we were prepared to answer. We had 3 main focuses in this process, and I'll never forget writing these on a yellow pad. These were kind of like, no matter what, this is what we're going to do. And I wanted to make sure I said them to you. Number 1, we want to build within our vision. Golden Corner Church is not a church that's just going to go out there and start building all sorts of things. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. Everything we build is multifunctional, and everything we want to build, we would want to go towards our vision. We want to make sure that no matter what, it's putting somebody in proximity to Jesus. Right? It's helping us teach people. It's helping us speak to people and teach on Sunday mornings. It's putting people in a place of worship. Like, that's the only things we're interested in building. We want to build within our vision. That's it. And the Great Commission. Number 2 is this. We want to be great stewards of our facility and our finances. Make sure you understand. We want to make sure that in the building we're in, what God has blessed us with, that we get the most out of it. We get the most out of every room we have in this building. And if you're ever here throughout the week, you will see that. How much we tear up and put stuff up and down and all those sorts of things. We want to make sure that we're good stewards of the facility in the framework of construction, meaning we don't want to build something and have to tear it down. We want every step to lend itself to the next step. We want every step to make sense and actually take us forward. Does that make sense from a building perspective? We also wanted to be great stewards of our finances. Golden Corner Church is a church that has always been able to be generous. Right, church? You know that. I mean, you know how we help people in the community and the things that we do. We want to continue to do that. Whatever building happens, whatever mortgages happen, whatever all that sort of thing, we want to make sure that no matter what, that Golden Corner Church is still able to be generous, that we're still able to help people and do all the normal ministry things that we do. You with me? So that was important to us. The third thing is this. We want to do church during all phases of construction. There was a time when Golden Corner Church went from one place to the next, and we had to do that. It's important now that we're here, to us, that we are able to be here and do church during construction. There may be a week or two here or there where we come up with something creative and get off site, but through all the phases of construction, we want to be able to be here doing church. You understand? That was important to us. During the 2-year master planning process, we outlined 3 phases of growth. Are you with me? 3 phases. The first of which I want to share with you today, as the leadership and myself feel we are ready to proceed. Can I show y'all some drawings? Yes. You're not going to believe this, but they gave me a laser. I have never felt more important than I felt when they handed me this. All right, let me show you this floor plan. All right, this is our current building. Everything in red, and I know it's a little small, but we're going to do our best. Everything in red is new, okay? So there's the door in the auditorium. That's that door right there, okay? Ignore this big box over here. Somebody's eye. I'm going to get sued. Here we go. The plan was from the beginning, was to be able to blow out that back wall and add additional seating. And we actually have the capability, just between the 2 columns, to add 116 seats that'll be slightly elevated. It'll be built up a little bit like a stage. Ceiling height will be the same. We can add 116 seats right there into this auditorium. There is a storage area right here, and I just want to say this is showing solid walls, but we actually are probably going to reserve the right to keep that as temporary storage, so we'll use curtains or something so that we have overflow seating for big events or other things that we're doing. It also allows from that column over there to have, I love doing that, it's so much fun. That actually gives us a room that we're going to turn into split offices, but it'll actually be multi-use too. We'll probably use it on Sunday mornings as well. We will get rid of that wall right there, and that room right there becomes the mother's room and babies 3 months and younger. You go back here in the kids' hallway. We're actually going to be able to add this. All these rooms, this is the gable sides, okay? So it keeps the same roof line and everything. We're going to add a classroom and another storage room to the back of the kids' wing, which again allows us to disperse those kids better. If you add space in here, you have to add space there. This is a conservative guess of what we can add back there. There's actually going to be a 2-lane street now that will go all the way around this building, and we will extend this absolutely as far as we can to get the most room possible and make the most out of this building. Up front, if I were to ask you, church, if I were to say, where is it the most crowded, what would you say? Once you're in here, it's okay, but walking through that auditorium is a serious task now. The foyer, sorry. So this lends itself especially to the later phases, but we felt the need. Golden Corner Church has always been a church that hangs out. And we want that to continue. And we don't want it to be so uncomfortable that people, especially someone who's new, who's not comfortable with Randy Collins and Billy Lusk screaming through them out there. I always pick on them. We want them to feel comfortable, like they can make their way in and it not be an incredible hassle. And so that, if you can look at the size of that, that's actually like, I think it's 3 and a little bit extra times as big as our current foyer. There also will be family restrooms, and we're actually, that platform, and that's like says platform stage, that's a ramp. That's for later stages, but also the reason we wanted to do that is for big events. We have a lot of big events here now that we can't even have here in our building. If we tried to have Kids Week here, we can't have the preschoolers and the elementary kids here at the same time. We have to come up with creative ways to do that. And so this actually will lend us to have another large gathering area for the kids where we can do teaching and we can do fun on special events like that and other things that we do. Let me show you the elevations of this. Okay. This is that foyer. You can see the pull under out front would go away. It'll be attached to the very front of the building right here. You'll notice it's a box. The reason it's a box is if God moves and more people come, we're able to, that's the best kind of construction, the most economical type of construction, and it'll lend itself into those next levels. There will be a way to pull up to the door and get out under cover. And you can kind of see these lines here. You see that line right there? Let's see. You see that line right there? That actually gives you an idea of how much building you're adding. And the same back here with this classroom. That line that goes down shows you what's actually being added. Everybody see it? Yes. Everybody understand it? Okay, good. I want to make sure you understand. The goal of phase 1 is to maximize the potential of the building that we're in. Okay? It is to make the use of how we can grow and where we can grow and maximize that potential. When we add that seating, especially with the overflow, you're talking about having as many as 150 more seats in the back of this auditorium. That's 2 services still. We do 2 services. You're talking about the ability to add around 280 adults comfortably, 260 to 280 adults comfortably on Sunday mornings. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of growth for our church. Not to mention you add classroom space. It frees up another classroom in the back. It gives us the storage we need, which we need storage, guys. Just saying. Significantly increases our foyer for Sunday mornings, but also for other events. As you probably have guessed, this is not free. I don't know if that catches any of you by surprise, but it's not free. Let me show you some numbers. We actually worked with Clayton Construction, our architects, to give us some estimated costs, and I want to show you what they are. Clayton Construction did what we call a high-end estimate, meaning we told them don't cut anything, don't trim anything, don't expect that we're going to save money, just build the building and let us see what it costs. I can assure you of this if you know anything about me in general, but also just our church. We're frugal. And so we're going to try our best to trim everything that we can, but we didn't want to do that on the front end. We want to do that on the back end of this thing, okay? And so the high-end estimate came in at $1.8 million. Civil engineering around the building, doing the driveway, doing all the things, $225,000, and LMG Architects to stay on board to do all the drawings is $90,000. And Mark and Laura, that's LMG Architects. We love them. They've been great partners through this whole process, and we definitely want to keep them on. So there you go. So the total project cost is $2 million. I know that's a lot of money. That's expensive. Let me show you how Golden Corner Church is doing financially. Complete transparency. You ready? Here we go. We still have a mortgage right now. We took out a $1 million note, right at a $1 million note in 2015, and we've paid it down. We owe $400,000. I want to point out the payment that we make every month is $6,700. That's easy. That has never been an issue for Golden Corner Church, ever. It is well within the range of what we should do and what we can do. And that's important to us because we want to, no matter what we head into, that's what we were talking about earlier, I want to make sure that the mortgage stays the same. The current general fund balance, we have, actually I checked it earlier this week, we have $441,000. We just couldn't change the slide. We have $441,000 in the bank. That's the most money Golden Corner Church has ever had in the bank. But we worked really hard to get the budget to that, or to get our account to that, and we really want to keep 6 months of operational in the bank, no matter what. It costs us like $330,000. That's 6 months emergency fund, meaning it keeps everything running, all the buildings are paid for, all the staff still on, everything, $330,000. So that gives us about $100,000 that we can do something with right now. And as you probably guessed, that is not enough. You with me? So what are we going to do? Everybody with me? This is, if you don't hear anything else, this is important that you hear this, okay? After much prayer and financial analysis and discussion, okay? Your staff, your trustees, everybody talking about this. We believe God has led us to try to tackle this debt over the next 3 years. We believe He is asking us as a church to give beyond our normal giving over the next 3 years. That's what we feel we've been led to do. You understand that God's people have always financed God's work, right? God's people have always financed God's work. It's just the way it goes. There are many places in the Bible, though, where God's asked us to be even more faithful and even more generous. And I think that's what the situation that we're in. That's where God's led us. As a church, we believe we can significantly reduce the loan needed and the debt that would be created by the additions of phase 1 if we come together in generosity and commit to give however God leads us. Did y'all hear that part? This is the parts I'm talking about being important. However God leads you, that's what we believe. After a lot of analysis, this is what we believe. We want to set a goal of raising $850,000. That's what we want to do over the next 3 years. We believe if we come together in our mission and prayerfully go to God, asking Him how we can give. I'm talking about you as an individual or you with your family, how we can give. Then whatever God has us do as individuals and as families, whatever He chooses and however He leads you will put us right where God wants us to be. That's what we believe. You with me, church? Please hear me. I've never been more uncomfortable than I am right now. I don't want to be in your money. I don't want to talk about your money. I don't want to talk about money from this platform more than I absolutely have to. I mean, you might have to beg me to do this right here. I want you to talk to God about it. Do you understand? That's all I want. We've prayed. We've talked. We've asked God a lot of questions. We just want you to talk to God about it. As you do that, here's how we want to proceed. We would love to take the next 3 weeks leading up to Sunday, May the 5th, to pray as a church about all of this, okay? We want to pray about these challenges of buildings and money and all this stuff that has to happen, but I really want you to pray just as much or more about the ministries of Golden Corner Church and what you see happening here at this church. We want to focus for the next 21 days as a church on praying about this. On praying about what God has set before us. And on May the 5th, if God leads you, did you hear that? Yes. On May the 5th, if God leads you, we want to give you an opportunity to do 2 things. First, Sunday, May 5th, we will have an opportunity to give a first fruits offering. Actually, me and a buddy at the gym were just talking about that recently. A first fruits offering, this is an opportunity to bring your first and your best to God. It's biblical. It's what we teach about giving. We believe we should always give to God first and not last. But here's the thing. If God leads you to give an amount over your normal giving over the next 3 years, we are asking that you bring a proportion of that gift as a first fruits offering. You just get a portion of it, first and best, what you feel you can do, and you bring that Sunday morning to give as an offering. It's biblical, but it's also helpful in getting the process started. You understand? With banks and all the things. The second thing you get to do, have an opportunity is this, to make a 3-year commitment. There will be an opportunity to fill out a commitment card that Sunday morning, which again is very important in dealing with banks and all the things so that they know what we have committed over the next 3 years. Brittany and I have been praying diligently about what God's going to have us do. I want you to understand in all this, that's all we're asking you to do. Me and my family, we're praying about it. Our leadership, our staff, they're all praying about what God's going to have them do. That's all we want you to do. It's important to me that you hear that, church. Okay? I want you to know this. I'm completely comfortable with however God leads us. You understand? Beverly, you understand? My ego's not attached to this at all. I'm completely comfortable with whatever God has us do, no matter what. I just want God to lead you. He will lead us as a church, no matter what happens. Over the next few weeks, during this time of praying, I know you'll probably have a lot of questions. If you see somebody with a Make-A-Way shirt on, there's somebody who has a lot of insight into the project and all the work that has been done here. Feel free to ask them any questions that you want. And if they don't have the answer, they'll know who to talk to. If you want to send us emails, if you want to shoot us a Facebook message, if you want to holler at me and come by the church during the week, or Brock or somebody come by the church in the week and look at drawings or whatever, you're free to do that. We will be completely transparent and share everything with you. We want to answer any questions. We actually hope that you ask us questions, because not only is it fun and awesome to talk about, but then we know that we're all praying and we're all trying to figure out what God would have us do. During the preparation for this work, a verse of the Bible became our mantra. And it's Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, and it says this. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but submit to Him. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He'll make your path straight." This is what we know. Just as Nehemiah asked God at the conclusion of his prayer, what did he say? Make the king favorable to me. He said, make a way. I know what I feel like you've led me to do, God, but it is completely up to you to make a way for me to do it. That is exactly what the prayer of your staff and your leadership of this church has been. God, we feel this and we know what you're calling us to do. It's up to you to make a way. I can promise you this, though. No matter what happens in this, meet the goal, don't meet the goal, have to wait a while, whatever it is, I can promise you this. We're going to do everything in our power to help as many people find Jesus as we possibly can. Do you hear me? No matter what, that's what we're going to do as a church. You with me, church? Yes. As we move through the next few weeks, I want to encourage you to do something. Just walk close with Jesus. Do you hear me? Just use this 21 days as an opportunity to just walk closer with Jesus than you ever have. Will you do that? Because I tell you this, nothing else will matter. It'll be worth it. If our whole church is walking closer with Jesus over the next 21 days, and that's all that happens is there's a renewal in your relationship, or you're stronger in your relationship than you've ever been with Him, we're fine with that, okay? That will be awesome. And whatever is supposed to happen and whatever God's going to do here will be great. You understand? Now, I'm going to hand it over to Brock. I'm going to ask him to come out and talk to you for a second. Brock's going to be leading us through the 21 days, and he's going to share a little bit about what that's going to look like with you guys.
Real quick, I know all this is exciting. I want to give God a hand, just how He's moving in the life of Golden Corner. As I was walking off the stage just a minute ago, I was listening to Ernie, and he said something. He said, thank you for the what? Prayers. You felt them, didn't you? And you felt them, didn't you? Guys, we don't want you to go through this journey alone. And Tim was talking about the 21-day prayer journey and what that's going to look like and stuff. And when you're on the way out the door today, we have cards for you to take. And on this card is the 21-day prayer journey. So every day, if everybody gets one, and we're going to be posting these online every day, we're going to be praying for the same thing every day. Whether it's kids ministry, students, or families, whatever that is, I want to encourage y'all to get this, take it, hold on to it, and pray, church. As Tim just said, this is not even about a building. This is about our church coming together and being the church. On the card also is a Lego. And on that Lego, we want you to take it home as a reminder. And it'll pop off. It's just glued on there. It'll pop off. Put it wherever you want to stick it. And when you see that Lego, you just remember, what is my part in this? What am I going to do? And we want you to have that. A couple other things we'll be doing is posting some stuff on Facebook, some ways to encourage you, some devotions. Make sure you stay on Facebook, social media, any of that stuff to keep up to date with what we have going on. Now, as far as tonight go, I'm excited about this. So I promoted last week we're going to do a night of worship, and we are doing a night of worship tonight at 6. I can say now we're doing a night of worship so that we can all come together and we can start this thing off right by praying and worshiping God together. So I want to encourage you to be here tonight at 6. As I said last week, and in a video we put out this past week, we're going to take all these chairs out, and the band's going to go in the middle of the floor. And we want y'all to come in and worship with us. But in the middle of the worship night, I got a couple of people going to come together, and we're all going to, whether you want to bring your life group, family, you want to wrap arms around them, hold hands. I've got a couple of people, and we're going to pray for our church and the decisions that are going to be made over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. Is everybody okay with that? You good with that? Make sure you stay on Facebook. We want to end today right. We have some people to get baptized. So we're going to, talking about life change, we're going to do it right here. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tim.
This is my friend Shanda. Yeah. Shanda started coming to church. How long has it been? I didn't even talk about that. A couple of years. And it has been amazing to watch how God's worked in her life and the challenges and difficulties that I know He's taken you through, the friendships that have formed during that time, how God's just moved in her, but also how God's used her. I have watched her serve and get involved and do and find family here, but also make a real difference. You encourage a lot of people, and they see you. We had a conversation sitting right there a few weeks ago about her being baptized and her making that commitment and making her relationship with Jesus public to you and to her family and her boys. And so we're going to celebrate by baptizing her today. And I want to say this, we have 3 more in the next service too. So it's a pretty awesome day. Shanda? Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're leading. You're leading. Shanda, since you've asked Jesus into your heart, into your life, and He's Lord over your life, and you plan to lead, you plan to follow Him all the days of your life, He's going to lead you. I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Stay here and pray with me. That's 85. 85. Pray with me. God, thank you. Thank you for the constant reminders you give us that you're changing lives, that you're working. God, I pray that you continue to use this church. We trust you. I pray that you send us all home with just this breaking heart for the county that we're meant to reach, for the world that we're meant to reach. And you just share with us and lead us to do the things that you want us to do, God. We thank you for it. And I thank you for each and every person that's here and the ones that you're sending here. We give you the glory for all of it. It's all you. You are great. You are good. You love us. And we are so thankful for that. In Jesus' name, everybody says, amen. Thank you. Love you.